You can probably recall the last story you heard, but can you remember the last business presentation you sat through? That's because stories activate our brains in ways data alone never can. They make us feel, react, and most importantly, remember. So here's the problem. If your team isn't telling a consistent, compelling story about your company, your brand is forgettable. And if they are telling a story, but they're all telling different versions, you're creating confusion, not connection. The good news is you can train your team to tell your company's story, your brand story, or the new story you want your sales team to land, all in a way that's engaging, adaptable, and most importantly, effective. Hey, I'm Deandra. And at Duarte, we help companies craft and communicate powerful stories that move audiences. Today, we're diving into how to get your team to tell your story consistently, persuasively, and in a way that resonates with different audiences. Here's what we'll cover. How to get buy-in so your team embraces the story, not just memorizes it. How to make it flexible so it works for different audiences. And how to train your team effectively so they don't just know the story, but they tell it with confidence. Stick around because at the end, I'll share one simple technique that makes the biggest difference in whether your company's story actually sticks. Sound good? Let's jump in. If you want your team to tell your new story, the first thing you need to do is get their buy-in. That happens in 2 phases. The first phase, show the work so you can build rational buy-in. Your employees shouldn't feel like they've just seen a magic trick once you tell them the new story. How did you do it? Instead, you need to show them all the work that went into crafting it. Because here's what's happened if you don't. Your team might hear the new story and think, who came up with this? Or why are we changing? And if they don't trust the process behind it, they won't fully buy in. The fix? Make the process visible. Show them the thought, effort, and expertise that went into creating the story. Because when people see the logic, they're far more likely to accept and champion it. So here's how to do it. Show the depth of research. Share how many customer interviews you conducted, the competitive analysis you ran, and the market trends you evaluated. Let them see that this wasn't just made up in a boardroom. Highlight the people involved. How many leaders, decision makers, and subject matter experts contributed? Name drop key teams, sales, product, marketing, executives, so employees know their department had a voice. Reveal the iteration process. If you tested different versions of the story, say so. If a test audience gave feedback, share what they loved or what didn't work. This helps employees understand that this story wasn't chosen arbitrarily. It was refined until it resonated. Set the expectation. Communicate that this is just not a marketing tagline. It's a foundation of how your company shows up in the world. The goal is for everyone to make it their own, not just repeat a script. Now, logic is important, but it's not enough. If you stop here, you've only given them the reason to tell the story, but not the motivation. That's where the second phase comes in. Instead of pushing a corporate message from the top down, use storytelling techniques to persuade them to tell the story. I know, very meta. And here's how you do it. Start with what is. What's the current state of your brand story? Are various departments telling it differently? Have you added a new product or service, making the story confusing? Have you already accomplished what your company's founders set out to do, and now it's time for something new and exciting? Whatever is going on now isn't good enough, but tell them why. And then you want to move to what could be. Paint the vision for them. What could a new story unlock for your business? Could it make it easier for customers to see how you solve their problems and as a byproduct spend more money with you? Could it help your company get top talent so you'll be able to hit all your ambitious goals? Make that what could be as specific to your internal team's wants and needs as much as possible. And then you end with the new bliss. How will everyone at your company be transformed when this new story is told in every customer call, every main stage event, and during every networking dinner? This what is, what could be, and new bliss structure is how the world's best leaders, from Steve Jobs to Margaret Thatcher, persuade audiences. This doesn't mean you need 2 separate meetings to tell people about the new story. In one company meeting, you could weave together the structure with your rational reasons to buy in from the last section. And there you have it. The outline for your next company meeting is already drafted. Well, almost. You want to add in this next step too. Once your team understands how the story was made and they see the value in it, the next step helps them believe they can tell it themselves. One of the biggest mistakes companies make, having the top exec who's a polished, charismatic speaker introduce the story. And then stopping there, reality check, you just set the bar too high. Now, everyone else in the company feels like they'll never tell the story as well as the exec did. So what happens? They don't tell it at all. The fix? Show the story in action at multiple levels. Exec can still deliver it, but you need to also invite other people at different levels who speak in different contexts to share it. Here's how different roles can bring the story to life in their own way. The CEO connects the story to the company's long-term vision. They focus on where the company's headed, why the story matters in the market, and how it differentiates from the brand from competitors. HR makes the story feel personal and actionable for employees. They emphasize how the company's story shapes its culture, values, and day-to-day decision-making. Sales teams translate the story into customer value. They highlight how the company's evolution has led to better solutions and stronger customer relationships. If you're planning a big company meeting, sales kickoff, or a message to the company, have a few people from different roles share their version of the story. Not only will this help employees see it in action, but it also adds an interesting element to your meeting or video. And here's a pro tip. Once your employees start telling a new story, make it easy to capture them. Invite them to submit meeting recordings or decks to a shared folder. You can use that material to create additional storytelling training, to audit storytelling skills, or to celebrate those employees who are nailing it. Here's what doesn't work. Handing your team a script and saying, just memorize this. Why? It forces employees to use a rigid script that doesn't fit real conversations. Instead, give your team a modular story. Here's how. Give the core message. What's the one big idea that should be in every version? Then build the modules. For one module, give them different versions of an introduction to the story. One for quick pitches, one for standing delivered presentations, and one where the audience is an executive who already has a grasp of the problem and solution. For another module, give them instructions on how to pick the right case study that matches the story and the buyer's current situation. For another module, highlight your most compelling data points and put them into a form of a recommendation. Then, give them instructions for how they can use the data to build a recommendation. Think of it like Lego blocks. Everyone has the same pieces, but they can build the story to fit different situations. And if you're thinking, I'll never be able to build enough modules or examples to cover every presenter, every use case, every customer, I have an answer for that. Send your team to our storytelling workshop where they will learn how to take their core story and reframe it for their own audiences. Even if you don't send them to a training, at least you will have shown your employees options for how to make their story their own. That's definitely a better strategy than tossing them a script and hoping for the best. The truth is, knowing the story and even believing in the story is different from being able to tell it well. That's why you have to give people a chance to practice the story and get feedback. But you need to do it in a low-stakes environment before they need to share it with their customers, employees, or on a big stage. Here's how to make practice effective and actually useful. The first thing, run role-playing exercises. One of the best ways to get your team comfortable with the story is to run role-playing exercises where a team member tells the company's story. Another person plays the skeptical audience, asking questions, pushing back, or even zoning out to simulate a really tough crowd. The group gives feedback on what worked, what didn't, and where they got lost. Now, let's be real, employees often hate this type of role-playing. It's painful. You know what else is painful? Planks. But guess what? They work. They strengthen your core and make movement easier. Role-playing works for the same reason. It reveals weak spots, places where people hesitate, over-explain, or go off track. But it builds confidence because when people practice, they stop second-guessing themselves. It helps the story feel natural, so when they actually need to share it, they aren't awkwardly recalling a script. They just own it. And if you really want to take things up a notch, offer one-on-one coaching for key spokespeople. Some people in your company will need to tell the story more than others, whether it's executives delivering the company vision at industry events, sales teams who need to persuade customers, or managers to their teams. For these high-impact roles, invest in one-on-one coaching. Why? Because peers even some managers might be good at saying what's wrong, but they don't always know how to fix it. And even when they do, they don't know how to coach someone else to fix it themselves. A skilled coach can help them land the story with confidence, not just recite it, identify and correct speech habits that might be getting in the way, like rambling or using too much jargon, lacking energy, but teach them to adjust their tone and style based on the audience. The best part, coaching doesn't just improve their storytelling. It elevates all their communication skills. All right, let's wrap this up. Here's what we've covered. Get buy-in from your team so they want to tell the story. Show how different roles tell the story in their own way. Build modular storytelling tools so the story stays flexible. Create opportunities for practice because repetition builds confidence. Want to know more about how to help your team tell company story? Download our free resource below, and here's one simple technique that makes the biggest difference in whether your company's story actually sticks. Repetition. Let me say that again. Repetition. You are the champion of the company story, so it's up to you to weave it into company meetings, team meetings, quarterly reviews, kickoffs, customer meetings, everywhere. This way, the story can't fade into the background. If you like this video, hit subscribe for more expert insights on storytelling and business communication. Thanks for watching. Go tell a great story.